Good morning, everyone. All right, before we get started on the CATS math problem for today, we are going to create a table of weights, okay? So what I would like for you to do on the paper in front of you is I would like for you to create a table that has two columns going up and down, and then we need 8 rows going side to side, okay? So go ahead and take a minute to create your table. Teachers, if you would press pause, that would be great. Give the students about, I'd say, 1 minute to create their table of 2 columns and 8 rows. All right, you all. So this is what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and title this first column. This is going to be titled Name. And you will see very shortly what we're about to do with this table. The title of our second column is going to be Weight. Weight. And then in parentheses, we're going to put in pounds. Okay? Here shortly, we're going to be weighing 7 of your staff members here in this building, and we're going to be logging their weight. Okay? All right, what we're going to do next is we're going to write in each row the name of the person who we will be weighing today. So your first name is Mr. Lucero. Our second person is Mr. Mendoza. Make sure you are filling this in as I fill it in. Your third row is going to be titled Mr. Soderberg. Your third row is Mr. Lavario. Your fifth row is going to be a young man by the name of Eduardo. So, Eduardo. Our sixth row is Mr. Wertz. And your last row is going to be the only brave female teacher in this building, Mrs. Richmond. Okay, in a minute, as I said, we are going to weigh all 7 of these staff members. They're going to step on a scale, and as I give you their weight in pounds, you're going to log their weight right next to their name, okay? So you're going to need to become a good listener, because once again, as they step on the scale, I will tell you what weight to put right next to their name. Okay? Let's go ahead and get started.
Go.
Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to go ahead and get started on our Wednesday CATS video. This week we're going to have a little bit of fun. We have been working on adding and subtracting decimals in math class this week. So today I have 7 wonderful volunteers who are willing to step on a scale for us. And we will log their weights onto a table. And we definitely need to give them a round of applause and a high five as you see them in the building, because for some people this is a very hard thing to do. So here we go. Let's get started. On your tables you should have your 7 people listed. The first candidate up is Mr. Lucero. So Mr. Lucero, please step up. Da-na-na-na-na. For Mr. Lucero, right next to his name, please write 189. 189. Good job, Mr. Lucero. Next up is your principal, Mr. Mendoza. Come on up, Mr. Mendoza.
Yeah.
So for Mr. Mendoza's weight, right next to his name, please write 157.8. Thank you, Mr. M. Next up is our assistant principal, Mr. Soderberg. Mr. Mendoza broke the scale. Awesome. Next to Mr. Soderberg's table, please write 199.7. Thank you, Mr. Soderberg. 199.7. Up next is our amazing science teacher, Mr. Lavario. You are so brave. For Mr. Lavario, please write 168.3. Thank you, Mr. Lavario. Next up, Miss Martinez was a little shy, so she sent her wonderful son, Eduardo. Oh, he's a lightweight. So Eduardo, please note 135.2. Thank you. Good job, Eduardo. Mr. Wertz, big man on campus. For Mr. Wertz, go ahead and log 257.3. 257.3. Hey, high five, high five.
Oh, thanks.
And last but not least, we have Miss Richmond, your awesome computer teacher, the only female who was willing to do this. Yeah! So for Miss Richmond, please log 120.9. 120.9. Awesome. All right, y'all, let's get to work. Okay, so now that we've weighed everybody, what I need you all to double check is make sure that you have filled in your table correctly. So Mr. Lucero was 189 pounds. Mr. Mendoza, 157 8/8 of a pound. Mr. Soderberg, 199.7 pounds. Mr. Lavario, 168.3 pounds. Eduardo was 135.2 pounds. Mr. Wertz was 257.3 pounds. And finally, the lightest in the group, Mrs. Richmond, 120.9 pounds. Now that you have their weights in the table, let's go ahead and take a look at the question. So your questions are, A, what is the sum of Mr. Mendoza and Mr. Soderberg's weights? B, what is the difference of Mr. Lucero and Mr. Lavario's weights? And C says, there are two people on the table that when combined do not even equal one of Mr. Wertz. Can you figure out who they are? So CATS teachers, now is your time to go ahead and press pause and let the students go ahead and figure out the answers to the 3 problems. Hopefully you all had enough time to answer all 3 questions. Let's go ahead and check and see how you did. So for A, the question said, what is the sum of Mr. Mendoza and Mr. Soderberg's weights? I don't know if you noticed or not, but the word sum was highlighted in yellow. Sum means that you should have added, Okay? Sum is add. So we should have taken Mr. Mendoza's weight of 157.8 and added to that Mr. Soderberg's weight of 199.7 pounds. Please note that when you add decimals, the decimals should be lined up. And now we're going to bring the decimal straight down in the answer. 8 plus 7 is 15. Drop the 5, carry the 1. 9 plus 7 is 16. Plus 1 is 17. Drop the 7, carry the 1. 9 plus 5 is 14. Plus 1 is 15. Drop the 5, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus the 1 that we carried is 3. So in total, Mr. Soderberg and Mr. Mendoza weigh 357.5 pounds. Go ahead and check your work and make sure that you got 357.5 pounds. All right, moving on to B. For B, the question said, what is the difference of Mr. Lucero and Mr. Lavadio's weights? So the word that was highlighted here was difference. Difference tells you to subtract. So difference equals subtraction. Mr. Lucero weighed 189 pounds. Now what I notice here is that this is a whole number. He was the only one in the group who did not have a decimal in his weight. So I hope you all remembered that in a whole number, the decimal goes at the very end. That is the only place we can put it so we don't change the value of the number. Okay? Now we're going to subtract from that Mr. Lavadio's weight, which was 168.3 pounds. Okay? Please note that there is a hole. So in this empty spot, we're going to place a 0 as a placeholder. So my first question is, can we take 3 from 0? The answer is no. So I'm hoping that you all borrowed from the 9, and that 9 should have became an 8. This 0 becomes a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. Bring your decimal straight down. 8 minus 8 is 0. 8 minus 6 is 2. And 1 minus 1 is 0. Now because this 0 is going to be at the beginning of a whole number, we do not need to keep that 0. So Mr. Lucero actually weighs 20.7 pounds more than Mr. Lavadio does. Okay, so double check your answer for B. Your answer should have been 20.7 pounds. And finally, for C, this should have been a fun one. You needed to figure out which two people, when combined, do not even equal one of Mr. Wertz. So if you look at your chart, Mr. Wertz weighed 257.3 pounds. Well, the two staff members who, when you add their weight, and the reason I say add is because your question said when combined. Combined means to add. The two members that when you add their weights do not even equal one of Mr. Wertz would be Mrs. Richmond, and the other one is not really a staff member, but he is a child of a staff member, but it was Eduardo. Okay, so check your work. Mrs. Richmond and Eduardo is your answer to C. Now let's look at why. So Mrs. Richmond weighed 120.9 pounds, and Eduardo weighed 135.2 pounds. Combined means to add them. So that is how we set it up. Decimals are aligned. You're going to bring your decimal straight down, and then let's go ahead and add. 9 plus 2 is 11. Drop the 1, carry the 1. 5 plus this 1 that we carried is 6. 2 plus 3 is 5, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So if you look at this, Mrs. Richmond and Eduardo weigh 256.1 pounds, which means that Mr. Wertz is a little heavier than both of them combined. If you ask me, that is an amazing fact. All right, you all, I hope you did a great job today, and I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday. See you next week.